We're back again. Chapter 10, The Film That Wouldn't Die. And I want to say, if you've stuck this out this long, I finally, here at chapter 10, I'm more than halfway through the book, way more, and I finally got some of the tech issues worked out, and I'm really proud of myself and grateful because there's a lot of other things that I want to do besides this. I will be teaching online painting classes. I was teaching the 2-hour paint and sip parties at bars and private homes, but right now we can't do that during pandemic times. I mean, later I'm hoping people will still be watching these videos and wonder what I'm talking about. But for now, we have to do things online, and I figured out how to do my classes online. But you have to bring your own wine. I will be doing some paintings of Manos related and MST related things too for you fans. So, lots of plans. A vlog. I have so many stories. Now that I got this figured out, we're going to have some fun. So subscribe to my YouTube and you can keep up with it. Chapter 10, The Film That Wouldn't Die. This one's in 2 parts, like many of them, because it's just a little too long for me to read in one shot. Fate impacted the direction of Manos in the months after Joseph C. Emerson, vice president of Manga Theater Corporation, arrived in El Paso, accompanied by David L. Cantor, Manga's national director of publicity, in early October to finalize the contracts between Manga and Sun City Films. The Capri Theater had canceled the scheduled run of Manos only a few days after the November 15th premiere, maybe because it just seemed cruel to continue. Manga, which had already done pretty well with distribution of such Academy Award winners as Oklahoma and South Pacific, may have decided to pawn off the low-budget Texas film to their VP, Joe Emerson, to add to films distributed through his company, Emerson Film Enterprises. Or maybe having Emerson acquire the film was the plan all along. During his El Paso visit 6 weeks before the premiere, Emerson expressed much enthusiasm about making motion pictures in the area and had discussed with Hal Warren and Bill Jennings the probability of programming other future Sun City films. Emerson cited the beauty of the area in an October 12th El Paso Herald-Post article. The scenery in the Southwest equals anything seen in the entire U.S. and offers great opportunity for unusual color photography. Perhaps even after the premiere and negative reception, he thought he could sell Manos as one of those creepy, sexy horror shows dear to the hearts of young people. And for the next year or so, it was spotted as far away as New Jersey as a double and triple feature in second-rate drive-ins. A few years later, Emerson subcontracted the film for television syndication to National Telefilm Associates and Peter Rogers' organization. It started showing up and randomly capturing interest from people who noticed how odd and otherworldly it was. Over the years, the video quality degraded as copies of copies of copies were distributed through bootleg VHS tapes, and viewing them became like peering through a murky pond bottom. Manos has been distributed in VHS and DVD format by at least 9 different distributors since 1966. The first review of Manos in the 1983 first edition of the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film by Michael Weldon is a hilarious tongue-in-cheek synopsis where Torgo becomes Torga, and which brings to mind a romantic comedy with the line, "The presence of guests caused nothing but trouble," and takes a darker comedic turn with the bickering between Torga and Manos escalates until Manos makes a point of vaporizing Torga's hand in sacrificial fires. One early fan, Frank Coleman, told of finding a copy of Manos at a yard sale in a box of bootleg VHS tapes in the late 80s. The first viewing left him and a friend slack-jawed in amazement and compelled to share with anyone who loved bad movies. He even called Jim Malone, production manager of Minnesota independent TV station KTMA and co-founder of Best Brains, who along with series director Joel Hodgson produced Mystery Science Theater 3000. Frank asked if Jim had heard of Manos, which he had not. The question may not have spurred anything at that point, but Manos was still fated for the show when it later arrived in a box of movies from HBO Downtown Productions, the company behind Comedy Central. HBO would send boxes of movies to MST for review by Frank Conniff. The films were public domain in the B-movie and under category and originated from several distributors like Sinister Cinema and Emerson Film Enterprises, whose reputations were firmly entrenched in these types of films. Although Frank, on camera, was best known to audiences as TV's Frank, one of the Mad Scientist, he was also one of the writers for 5 seasons. His other job was to review the films that would come in, decide which ones he felt were appropriate for the show, and bring them to the other writers. They would watch all together, make a final decision while spontaneously riffing. From there, the group would view the movie several more times and edit the jokes into a script and lines assigned to the characters. Frank recalls Manos coming across his desk and watching it for the first time alone in his cubicle. He could see potential based on the film's painful lack of quality, but there was something almost unnerving in the awkward script and painful pace that gave him pause before bringing it to the show creator Joel Hodgson, head writer Mike Nelson, Trace Beaulieu, Kevin Murphy, Paul Chaplin, Bridget Jones, Mary Jo Pehl, and contributing writers Pauline Henjum and Jim Malone. Mary Jo Pehl later described Manos in a 1996 The Mystery Science Theater 3000 Amazing Colossal Episode Guide. This movie was like watching a train wreck. We couldn't bear to watch it, but we couldn't look away. There were many times during the writing process when we simply couldn't make comments, so caught up in the wretchedness of this movie where we were haunted. Manos became our standard by which all others are measured. In a Manos article by Jake Rawson in the October 2015 Playboy, Frank Conniff says, "It seems like maybe it was a crime against humanity, but you couldn't be sure." Upon airing on January 30th, 1993, Manos catapulted to instant fame among MST3K fans, lovers of B-movies, and cult film enthusiasts. Fans were talking about it, sharing it, and daring friends to sit through the whole thing in one shot. To watch Manos became a badge of honor, and most agreed they couldn't imagine watching it without Joel and the bots to fill in the long, awkward moments with brevity and clever remarks. It was an awful film made with earnest intention, and viewers could recognize an aspect of themselves in the attempt. They might not wish to like Hal Warren, but they had to admire his fortitude and marvel at the fate that resurrected his film 27 years after a dismal start to a new and approving audience. It's a story of most unlikely hope, and all because MST3K dusted off an unknown film from the obscurity which befalls so many creatively inspired projects. In 1993, just as the internet was getting popular among everyday people and we still had dial-up, an online magazine called Mimosa published The Hand That Time Forgot, an article by Richard Brandt in which he tracked down and interviewed Bernie Rosenblum and Bob Guidry. It was through that article that I contacted Richard and learned that he was the foremost and most accurate Manos historian to date. We began exchanging notes and chatting from time to time while keeping each other appraised of anything Manos that showed up. I was amused at all the made-up stories turning up online in what I came to refer to as Manos mythology, while setting about to clear a few up. It became a sort of hobby to chime in on chat rooms and any place I spotted Manos conversations. In 1998, Richard interviewed me and wrote a follow-up article, Growing Up Manos, also in Mimosa. Manos by then had already become more than a bad film to make fun of. According to a review in the 1998 number 28 issue of Phantom of the Movie Videoscope, the mad scientist unleashed the film that has come to symbolize the worst in cinematic ineptitude. The article ended by saying, truly, this is the episode that demonstrates why MST3K won that Peabody Award. Joel Hodgson said in 2015 that he had long noticed that MST3K and Manos had an ongoing connection. One event he attended even had Manos as the main decor for MST3K booth. He thought, man, we must have really killed it on that episode. But when he watched it that night from the back of a screening for the first time since doing the show, he was not impressed. In fact, he didn't feel it was one of their best efforts. In Joel's opinion, MST3K may have brought it into the public awareness, but Manos stands on its own. The MST3K episode featuring the film was released on DVD on its own in 2001, and in the Mystery Science Theater 3000 Essentials collection in 2004. Also in 2004, a documentary came out called Hotel Torgo, which began by saying that all cast and crew of Manos had mysteriously died or disappeared. I found this particularly puzzling since I was not only alive enough to see the documentary, but I had contacted the filmmakers, letting them know that maybe Dad and I would be interested in talking with them. In retrospect, I imagine they had either already decided that having us all mysteriously gone made for a better opening, or that by the time I called them they were too far along to change it. However, they changed the credits to reflect my married name of Jones in a slightly different font. That's something, I suppose. Although I have enjoyed holding them up as an example of how Manos mythology is perpetuated, I am grateful for what they did. They filmed the location of the Valley Lodge before it was vandalized and weathered beyond recognition. And they interviewed Bernie Rosenblum on film before his death in early 2015. He had fun with it, and it's great to have that preserved. A year later, in June 2005, Entertainment Weekly published a 7-page article by Dalton Ross on Manos, with a reference on the cover officially bestowing the title that fans had long held close: the worst movie ever made. Ross describes the film as a story of more than incompetence. It's about hope, possibilities, embarrassment, humiliation, tragedy, and finally, redemption. One way that redemption manifested was that Manos started showing up on film school class lists and taught us everything not to do in filmmaking, attracting another genre of fans: young filmmakers, actors, and creative types. Some of them became captivated and haunted by Manos, turning it to for ideas for their own projects. I'm going to stop there, and we'll finish chapter 10 tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to sticking with me even after this book, maybe taking some of my painting classes, and for sure following my vlog, because there are so many new things coming up. Wow, there's a lot. A lot. Talk to you soon.